you guys did a quarantine performance of Redneck Represent with all of you guys performing in your individual homes. And I was impressed that there was, a good amount of energy to that. And I was wondering, how did you guys bring that feel and energy when not only was there not an audience, but you guys weren't even connecting physically and visually with each other?
That's kind of just kind of our MO. You know what I mean? That's kind of when people come to see us, that's the biggest takeaway. I mean, people could listen to our music online, but until they kind of see us, it's a different vibe. I don't know if I don't know how to explain it, but we try to be a fun band live, a lot of interaction with the crowd and stuff, and just high energy. So that's just me naturally. I feel like a little high strung, but that's a song that was actually the first song that I ever wrote for this band, and we decided to not put it on our EP
Okay.
because we had kind of played it out a little bit, and we thought, well, but it's one of the ones that people love the most, and so we thought, you know what, while we're in quarantine, we've already got that song, we already know how to play it and everything. Let's just throw a video out there, and
Yeah.
actually, what we're gonna do with that, my bass player Bobby is mixing it, and it's being mastered, just the live off the floor version. And we're gonna throw it online shortly, just for donations, whatever you can, and then whatever we raise with that, we're gonna donate to a local charity. So yeah, it was a lot of fun to do, and I think we're gonna do it. We might even release a single, one that we're working
Okay.
on that way as well. So not for mass consumption, but yeah, just for fun.
Well, that makes me wonder, because so I mean, how long ago did you write that song? Because you said it was one of the first ones you did for the band.
Oh God. Well, we've been 7 years. Holy cow. We started out, I mean, we still do the cover thing just because, I mean, it pays the bills.
Yeah.
Um, but we started out as a strictly cover band, and we did about 3 years of that while we were still kind of, you know, mulling around the idea of writing originals. And then we had a bass player in the band that was pulling hard the other way, saying no originals, just covers. He didn't want to go down that route and stuff. And so it took us a while to kind of realize, like, all right, like we do want to go this way. And so we ended kind of ties with him there, and then we started progressing from there. So I wrote that song maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago, when we finally said, like, let's just take a stab at it, and started
Hmm.
writing, and seeing where it would go. And it actually was really good for us. Like, taking that step into an original space opened a lot of doors for us, that
Yeah.
you wouldn't necessarily get as a cover band, little opening gigs and things like that were kind of out of our reach before. And adding a new drummer was was a big part of that too, but kind of upped our game a little bit.
Okay. Well, I mean that's also something I was wondering about because that was 2 years ago that you had to get a new drummer,
Yeah.
and that's sometimes that's not a small deal to bring in someone, and so I was curious what was you know what is the reason for your success, in being able to bring in someone new to the band and yet have them mesh with who you are and maybe take you in a different direction at the same time.
Yeah, well, Andy, our current drummer, I've known for years. I've been around the Ottawa music scene. I don't want to date myself, age, but a while. And I've always known Andy and always respected him, and he's a phenomenal drummer. And to be honest, I always thought he was kind of a little bit too skilled for me and what I was doing. Um, and we just kind of ran into a conflict with our drummer where he just wasn't holding up his end of the bargain. We were all moving forward and growing and doing what we needed to do to elevate the band, and we gave him ample opportunity to come along there for the ride, and he just wasn't pulling his weight. So I mean, it was like breaking up with a girlfriend. He was a good friend of mine, and we just had to have a sit down over a beer, and I just said, listen, man, like, this is you did this to yourself, and unfortunately, you knew it was coming, and you still didn't do anything about it. So um, it was just weird, like serendipitous that I ran into Andy at a bar, and a
Mm.
friend of mine was talking to him and said, "What are you up to these days?" And he said his band had just split up and gone over to Europe or something like that, and he's like, "Nothing." And so I think we were actually in the washroom taking a piss, and I was like, "Hey, would you be interested in?" And so he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "All right, well, give me a couple weeks, I'll give you a call." And yeah, it was like I said, serendipitous. So I never thought he'd want to play with me, or we were good enough to play with him. But he's been amazing, and he's a close buddy. So it was an easy mesh for us.
Okay. And what, I don't know, how did that change your sound? Because you seem to suggest that it did have an effect on your sound, I mean, and well, God, changing out a drummer is not a small deal.
No, well, I mean, Andy is just he's a pro. Like, I mean, we gave him 2 weeks to learn 60 songs and threw him into the mix at a show with like 1,500 women or something like that. It was a ladies' night, and he crushed it. And it was weird because there was things that I over the years had forgotten that I took cues from, and the other drummer wasn't playing those, right? Like little
Oh.
accents or something, right? And when I'm practicing it, I would always know that okay, that cymbal hit. There's a line, and I'd forgotten. Like after playing songs for so long, I'd forgotten that that was still there, And then when Andy played it, I was like, oh, yeah. So I mean, it just yeah, like he just tightened everything up, and plays everything phenomenally and perfectly, and
Mm,
charts everything, and you know,
yeah.
we went from like the drummer in our band being the worst player to the drummer in our band being the best player. So
No.
I like to joke on stage and be like, I don't know what happened over the years, but I somehow became the worst musician in the band as the frontman. I was like, you know what? I'm not angry about it.
Right, right. That's funny. And because you released the EP long time coming, a couple of years ago now, and I always thought that one of the advantages of that first album, although there's challenges, one of the advantages, usually you've road tested the songs, in front of crowds to see, okay, how is this working? How is that working? And was that the case with this EP?
Nope.
No.
No.
Wow.
No, like I said, we did it wrong. I'll just flat out admit that we did it wrong. Like I said previously, I guess we were chatting off recording, but
Yeah.
we had a big gig coming up with Brett Kissel with like 2,000 people, and we hadn't put anything out there yet. We hadn't released any singles. We were definitely playing some songs live. I think two or three of them that are on the EP, but not like regularly. We'd throw them in a 3 hour set. We'd play them once in a 3 hour set, where we're doing covers and stuff. So they were getting good response, but they weren't like you said, they weren't like proven songs. We
Mm,
just wanted to have something at that show to put in people's hands because, as far as people knew us, we were a cover band, and we
yeah.
wanted people to know that we were working on moving towards being an all original band, and wanted, it was a great opportunity in front of 2,000 people. It was the biggest show we had played at that point, and so we went in, a month before this gig and laid it down in like a week, and
Wow.
we sent it off to be mixed and mastered and had it back in our hands within like I think I picked it up 2 days before the show.
Wow.
So yeah, so we know we did it backwards, but it did open a lot of doors for us. Even though the songs, we put them to trackers and stuff, and they were like, well, it's not quite Nashville sound, right? It's not quite what the radio's looking for and stuff. And I can take criticism and stuff, and that's great. Learned a lot of lessons.
Hmm.
So not going to do it that way again. But like I said, it wasn't not worthwhile because it did open a lot of doors for us. It got us a lot of gigs. People looked at us differently once they knew we had original music, and
Mm,
it gave us a wider fan base because people now had something to like physical, or
Yeah.
to hang on to, right? They had something that said, "This I like this band," and not just "I like this cover band."
Right, right. Although I gotta say, for some of the people that, put that criticism toward you, I gotta say some of that I think is complete crap. Just because, like the song "Before the End of the Night," I think that is like a solidly tight country rocker. That it's got the starts and the stops, and the massive energy, and it seems like, to be honest, something that could totally fit in with anything else on the radio. How did that one come about?
Oh, I appreciate that for starters.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned, I guess, pre-recording that this EP kind of came together. We had a handful of songs and we demoed them really roughly and we threw them out to kind of our little fan base and asked what songs, they would like to see on the record. And three of them stood out. Uh, and then there's five songs on this EP. So three of them stood out as fan favorites. Um, Before the End of the Night was a really rough acoustic demo when we sent it out to
Hmm.
people, so they couldn't really hear the whole concept that I had
Yeah,
for it. And then our producer picked the kind of gospely one, and then the Before the End of the Night was my pick because I had it. We had an acoustic demo, but I knew what I wanted it to sound like, and what I
yeah,
wanted when I wrote that song was it to be like a walkout song. You know what I mean? Like I wanted it to be lights go on or like house lights go down, big lights are on, drummer starts on
yeah.
the stage and you walk on, and I wanted something anthemic to kind of open up a set with,
Hmm.
for all these opening gigs and stuff that we were doing. So that's like that was my big inspiration for that one. It was just I just wanted something anthemic that kind of hit you in the face right away and said, this is who we are, first
Yeah.
song. So
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
it's
No. Uh,
lyrics in it that are based on our reality at that time too. It's like
hmm.
been up and down this highway 1,000 times, which is Highway 17, and all stopped all over these local bars and stuff, whether stage or floor. Sometimes you're literally playing on the dance floor. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, right. But that's how every band got its start. I mean, that's
I'd
that's
like to think
part
so.
of
Yeah.
that's part of the process, especially in the country scene, from what I know. Um, well, talking about, songs drawn from life, that does make me wonder the tune, I might have read that wrong. How much is that based on actual experiences?
Uh, everyone asks that question. Actually, it's funny. I like to say that it's my guitarist's experiences.
Okay.
That one's just, the inspiration for that one is just, you get drunk. Sometimes you do things that you regret, but a lot of the times they're some of the best stories, right? So that's kind
Yeah.
of the influence on that one. We'll, we'll we'll leave it up to everyone's imagination whether or not some of those things actually happened.
All right. Not in terms of sound, but in terms of that kind of tongue-in-cheek style to it. It reminds me of, do you know the Brad Paisley song "Me Neither"?
Yeah, that literally like that was when I was writing that one. I was in a big Brad Paisley phase, so
Okay.
I like that. I've written a couple songs like that too that haven't really shown up anywhere yet, but yeah, like little tongue-in-cheek songs like that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to, like it's fun and it's cool, but it's like if you really dig into the lyrics, you're like, wow, this is funny.
Yeah, yeah. I always have to replay it when I'm playing it for my friends. When we first when we first did it, I was like, "Did you hear that?"
Right. And then, well, okay, so did not road test these songs. You've since, had time to play these live. How much, what song has changed the most as a result of now being road tested?
Um, the song "Mama," which is kind of gospely and has like an organ in it and stuff. My friend Jeff Rogers put organ in it, which was awesome. Um, but that one has turned into more of like a sing-along song. Like we've stretched it out and we've taken like we do like crowd interaction back and forth and stuff. So that song is actually grown by probably over a minute and a half with stuff like that. But for the most part, I would say the majority of them are pretty much as is. We play them pretty much like the EP.
Hmm.
And some of them we don't play as often just because we're in, let's say, like a big bar or something like that where we're playing covers and stuff. So we're not about to drop a slow breakup ballad on them.
Yeah.
But it's funny because we do have a lot of fans that show up and they're always requesting those ones. They're like, I haven't heard it in forever. And it's like, well, not really the right venue for it.
Right,
But
right.
yeah, my bass player always says, we have to play them all. But I don't know. It's hard when you got people dancing and grooving to be like, okay, here's a slow jam.
Right, right, right. Um, but again, again, most bands I think start off this way, and a lot of them, start off you have to learn, cover songs, and that's how you get your performance time initially. And I think it's a great training too. And I'm wondering if there's a particular artist that maybe you uh, liked before, but developed even more respect for once you learned, what it took to cover his or her songs.
I have huge respect for like pure singer-songwriters. Like, not that they don't collaborate and stuff like that, but there's the big machine, which is Nashville and LA, where they have, you know, hundreds and hundreds of songwriters and people just, sing songs and they're calling themselves, an artist when really they're a performance artist or something like that, or they call themselves songwriters when really they're a vocalist or things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, anybody that's cut their teeth behind the scenes, not to use like kind of everybody says Chris Stapleton and stuff, but if you look at his journey, through what he did and then before he launched his solo career, like people
Hmm.
think these guys come out of nowhere, right? They think,
Yeah.
oh, we're like, where was Chris Stapleton? Like he just decided to start. No, obviously he's had years and years and years of writing songs for people and doing other bands and being in rock bands and bluegrass bands and all that, right? So yeah, those are the kind of the people that I appreciate and kind of try to emulate a little bit more too. Like um, one of my one of my favorite musicians is Eric Church, and he's the one who kind of brought me back to country because I was in a rock band for a long time. I grew up in a small town, so I listened to country when I was younger, but I moved away from it for a while. Um, and then hearing Eric Church for like the first
Hmm.
time and realizing that country had, you know, picking up some rock vibe, right? Like, and
Yeah.
it was like, it's almost a rock song. Like it has double bass in it, like,
Right.
uh, it brought me back. So, Eric Church is definitely, one of my all-time favorites right now and stuff. But yeah, guys like that, they're, um, who else is like that? Like, Miranda Lambert or even Taylor Swift who writes her own stuff. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
I have a huge appreciation for that, for those type of people.
And then I'm curious about how your voice has developed over time because, in a lot of these songs, it's like you have this controlled break that happens. And I've heard it with some artists before. I don't know, exactly how to describe it. It's not like a crack or something like that. It's just, this kind of change of pitch, but
Dirt.
yeah, but it goes with the vibe and the sound, and it's. I'm wondering how much of that is okay. I'm going to throw this in here, and how much of it is that's just what happens when I sing.
Um, it's not conscious for sure. It's I guess for me, it's kind of an energy. Sometimes, like if I play live, it's dirtier than usual. If it's a good show, I might get into it. Maybe it depends on how many beers I had. I don't know, but no, I mean, I've heard both sides of it. I've heard like, maybe less dirt. But it's not. Yeah, it's not really a conscious thing for me. It just is kind of whatever the mood is in the song to me. Is whatever the energy and the vibe is kind of when I lean into it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, do I consciously do it? No, I don't think so.
Okay. I mean, but I mean, I think it's cool because it adds all these different layers, or there's other times, I was going through some of your live footage on YouTube and stuff like that, and there are times where, you really bring like more of a growl, a deeper growl to some particular lyrics, and again, it gets it a little bit more depth. It's because. And I'm not going to name names, but there's some where their vocal range, maybe it's on point and maybe in tune, but it's just a flat line, across, throughout the entire song. And so, at least my ear is drawn to people that can, add a different range and color to things. And so, I just think it's cool that you kind of explore all avenues when you do that.
Yeah, I think, like I said before, I don't think it's anything I consciously try to do. It's just I try to bring an energy, and maybe it comes out that way. I definitely like to entertain.
Hmm.
I've been to shows where I'm sorry, Dixie Chicks, but I went and saw Dixie Chicks, and they stood still and played perfectly and sang perfectly the entire show. But
Hmm.
it was probably one of the worst shows I've ever seen because it was boring. Like it's like if I wanted to listen to the record, I would have put that
Yeah.
on, and stayed home and saved my money.
Yeah.
So for me, a live vocal, there can be mistakes and there can be, realness to it and there can be dirt and there can be, whatever, but that's what makes it real and that's what makes it live and fun. So
Yeah.
I guess that's more my thinking when it comes to stuff like that.
Okay. Cool. And then you recently became, if the term is correct, endorser of, and if I'm pronouncing it right, Bounsall guitars.
Yeah, so unfortunately, that literally happened right before the shutdown.
Hmm.
So we did a show with the Rogers Hometown Hockey, and I played one of his guitars. And we had set to do some more shows where I was going to kind of alternate guitars and kind of help promote his brand. His son is a good friend of ours. Um, so we kind of did this collab, and we were going to do a couple things. We were going to play in his shop, and we had some plans. They've
Yeah.
been put on hold. So as of right now, I'm still playing my Taylor, but
Hmm.
yeah, it's definitely something that we're looking forward to once we can kind of start interacting and stuff again. Right now, it might be something that we do behind the scenes once we can kind of expand our bubble a little bit or whatever. But with all of our shows being canceled until 2021, we'll see we'll see where there's an opportunity to actually play it live. So
Yeah. And I was interested because I'd never heard of them before, and so I was curious what makes them uh, really good guitars for you, as someone who is a professional guitar player.
yeah, well, you should talk to Mark more. I'm the guy who just knows enough chords to sing, but no, I mean, we like checked them out, and then Mark came with me and stuff, and like he makes these in his basement, and he puts more care into these things than you like. People have looked at his guitars and priced them out at like six, seven, $8,000, and he won't sell them for that because he wants to get them in people's hands.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so he's selling them for probably half that price. But the workmanship and the quality and the craftsmanship is like phenomenal for a little boutique. He makes maybe three, four, five a year tops, and that's all he wants
Wow.
to do. He's a retired guy. He just makes them in his basement, um, but he has a passion for it, and it really shows. And they play amazingly.
Hmm.
The
And I
tones
mean,
are insane.
yeah, well, that's what I was also curious about is, what makes them distinct? How do they stand out from other guitars?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the quality of the build, the feel on the fretboards, the woods that he chooses to use, sustain on some of them. He has some really cool, unique kind of projects where he has like an electric acoustic, but it's like an electric guitar that sounds like an acoustic, and
Yeah.
he has no names for these, by the way. I asked him what it was. He's like electric acoustic. Yeah, like you gotta maybe get some get some model numbers or something, but.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
but each one is unique. I don't think he's made two of the same guitar yet. So
Hmm.
just very cool. And he can kind of do custom orders and stuff too if you wanted something like that. So it's I recommend checking it out if anybody's watching this.
Right.
Boots All Guitar Works.